Hello makers and welcome to Spectiva Studios. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Good to have you here. By the way, if you're interested in creating art and working with acrylic paints and collage and all sorts of really interesting materials, then you might be at the right place. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon and we'll let you know every time we drop a video, which is every Friday morning. And it's good to have you here, by the way, and as always, one of the challenges that any artist faces is we have our blank sheet of paper here in front of us. By the way, this is a Strathmore heavy-duty watercolor paper. I'll put a link in the description below for you to take a peek at. This is my go-to paper. I like it. It's heavy. It takes a fair amount of abuse and wet, and we can do some cool things with it. And today, I want to do something fairly cool, but I also want to give ourselves an opportunity to create art that's interesting to look at, but doesn't take a lot of time to get there. And what I'm thinking about is I want to be able to create an artistic shape, some sort of thing, and maybe a little bit of geometry in here as well, but something that we can put in our paper here and frame it with the white. One of the advantages of working, of course, with paper is the paper already has a color. In this case, it's going to be a white paper. And if we can create kind of a frame using the white, it really helps draw things in a little bit more. Now I'm using my my big quilting ruler here because it's long, right? We can put a lot of space in here, 2 feet worth. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab a mechanical pencil. This is going to be my go-to right here. And what I want to do is I want to create kind of a basic frame on this piece of paper. And I'm just going to, again, I'm going to just lay down some lines. I'm going to say probably about 3 inches from the top. Let me just kind of get some line in here. And then I'm going to say same kind of distance, just kind of frame it approximate, by the way. It does not have to be exact at all. And I'll say let's start with this. And let's go down to about here on our paper. And what I'm really doing is I'm just creating a box. This is going to be the box that is going to be where my artwork is going to reside. Whatever the thing I want, that's not the frame, not the paper around it. Okay, and we'll do the same thing in here. Now, one of the things I'm going to do just to make things a little different is I'm going to put this side, I'm going to put it at an angle to about right there, and then I'm going to put it back to kind of the corner. I don't know if you can see that very well. You will in a moment, I hope. Okay, but if I'm looking at this now, I've created kind of a, an interesting shape. It doesn't have to, of course, be a square, and I'm thinking what I want the shape of my final shape in here to be. Now, one of the things I'm going to use for this particular art is I have a compass. You remember these back in school? We never really knew what to do with it other than use it as a weapon. Yeah, those. And this one allows me. I have some quick release here. I can get some fairly good arcs. And one of the things I'm thinking I'd like to do is to create an opportunity to really just cut out some sections in here. And so actually, I don't need it to be that wide. I'll work within my paper. But if I were to come over here, for example, and say, all right, I want to be able to create an arc that is going to, take out, let's see how we do this. I don't want to do a full, bring this in a little bit. Here's what I'm thinking about. I'm going to kind of go in this line, and I'm just going to create an arc from up here to down here. And I want that to be, this is the inside of my art, that's going to be the outside of my art, like that. So we're going to make something a little bit more exacting. And I'm going to create another rounded line. I'm going to do that in this upper corner here. And again, I'm going to kind of take it from here to here. So let's just kind of bend our line a little bit here. We'll bring it up like that. There we go. That's nice. And we may come in here and have to erase a bunch of stuff. And I'm also thinking it might be worthwhile to put in not only just some rounded corners, but some sharper angles. And so down here, for example, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a line that's going to be like this and like this. We're going to create like kind of a crevice that goes up into this. And I think we can do something similar over here. Again, there's no exact way to do any of this. But if I come in here like this, and I come in here like this, we'll create some interesting textures that are going to really make this a little bit more varied. And let's do the same thing on the top. I'm going to come in here. Actually, I'm going to do something very interesting. I'm going to come in here like this and create the first line. Then I'm going to take my compass, and let's make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to create a rounded section. It's going to go back like this. Okay, so then my rounded section, back like this. And then I'm going to use my compass to go back out like that. So we get an interesting shape that's coming in here. Now we can make modifications to this all we want to. Sometimes when you're building something, it may look great or it may be missing something. I don't think I necessarily like the way this piece is because it's too similar to this. And one of the things I'm also thinking that'd be kind of interesting is to create some sort of a natural arc over on this side. So again, I'm going to grab my compass and we can experiment and see what works and what doesn't work. So in this case, for example, let me make it wider. Make it as wide as I can without my extension. And if I take it from this point, come down to this corner, I'm going to just zoom up like this. So what I'm thinking I will do here is I will extend this line over here to kind of where it should intersect with this, right about there. And I'm going to take out the rest of that section. So this section and this line here are all going to come out. And by the way, I have a tutorial coming up on art erasers. Yeah, you don't really think about it. They're kind of a necessary part of everything we do, especially if we're working with pencils and all. But it's an opportunity to understand what's the difference between this eraser and other erasers and what's the best one to use. And we have a shootout coming up in just a few weeks, so keep an eye out for that. But I'm going to come in here right now and I'm going to get rid of as many of the lines I don't want. Okay, and let's get rid of this line here. And I guess I like that okay. We'll do that. Get rid of this line up here. And let's get rid of this corner, which we don't need anymore since we've done a beautiful job of rounding it off. Now again, I'm kind of going for a basic look. I don't need to sweat it out too much. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of like this. I kind of like where it's gone. It's very geometric and yet it's very abstract, which is, things that are working for me. And what it's really going to come down to now is identifying if there's a specific color that I want to be able to drop into this framework. And what I want to do, of course, is just try to obscure my lines. I could erase them, I suppose, if I wanted to, but I want to be able to come in here. And if I have a dark enough color, I can cover it up. So what color do we want to put in here? Well, I'm thinking a dark blue might be a good thing for this. Again, maybe a dark green. I'll play around with a few different colors and decide. And do I want to have just a single color? Do I want to have another color on top of it in some way? I haven't figured out that far yet, but let's give it a try and see what we're going to do. I think I'm going to go with a kind of a darker olive green here. Yeah, it's not my usual bright palette, but I think it will work for a piece like this. So let's explore what happens if we drop that color in. All right, I'm gonna add my my paper palette here. By the way, this is just great. Once again, if you've not seen these before, the paper palette is it's a plastic coated paper. It's disposable, and if you're a painter and you want to be able to hold your paints out like this, you could do that. But the thing I like about this is it just has a lot more real estate, and it allows me to mix paints and blend them and add different colors and stuff with a fair amount of real estate, which the smaller palettes don't. And if I'm being totally honest, at the end of the day, not having to have something extra to clean up doesn't make me real unhappy. So do that. I'm going to use I have an olive paint here. I'm going to see how well this does what I want it to do. And sometimes it's a bold experiment. It's that moment of, all right, am I about to ruin what I just created here? And again, I'll get some more paint on here in a moment. I like the consistency of this. This is actually a fairly fluid paint. And so to that point, I want to come in here and I want to see if I can obscure my pencil lines by just dropping that on the edge. We'll do it up here as well. And I'm going to want to take a little bit of time just to make sure there's some precision in my painting. But the objective overall is to come in here and to make sure that this line is covered. Try to smooth it as much as I can. And this looks like the kind of thing we're going to have to put a few different layers onto because, as you can already see, the opacity of this paint is not extraordinary. And let's come in here. And sometimes when you're working with trying to cover outlines here, sometimes a smaller brush is a little bit easier. Just gives you a little bit more precision, and sometimes that's handy. By the way, one of the other things that we can do, of course, when we're working on things like straight edges, is use one of my best friends, which is actually Scotch tape. Yeah, Scotch brand, quite literally. Most of adhesive tapes, are going to behave differently, and I've done a shootout in the past. But the thing about the magic tape, that Scotch brand magic tape, is that it just really allows us to be able to just have a clean line. I'm going to put this, by the way, you probably can't see. I'm going to put this so it's right barely on the other side of the pencil line. So we want to obscure the pencil line, of course, but we want to have a clean line right in here. And if we get anything over the line, it's not going to be a problem. So I can come in here, and again, I can kind of just hit this up, partly on the Scotch tape. And I'm just going to go down here and get that line. Now I want to keep my tape in here for a bit if I have to put in several layers, which it looks like we're going to have to. So give me some flexibility on that. And meanwhile, by the way, if I'm doing the same thing down here, I'm just going to go and let's run a length of tape from point to point down yonder. There we go. And there we go. All right, and so I'm going to, let's pick this up right here. And of course we don't want to mess it up in this area here, but we're going to be good. Bring it in there. And I'm a big fan of masking, because I'll be honest with you, sometimes as precise as I want to be with a paintbrush, it's not always an easy thing to do. And there are people who have practiced many years and have gotten fairly good at it. And I never really have acquired the mad skill to be able to get my paintbrush exactly where I need it to be all the time. So, there we go. All right, now I still have more of this to paint in, so in the interest of just making it a lot more interesting for you to watch, I'm going to speed things along here, and we'll fill the rest of this in with our olive green color. Okay, now it's taken a little while to get through here, because one of the things that you discover when you're working with any materials is that this paint is not horribly opaque, and it took several layers to get it to a point where I'm feeling very comfortable with this coverage. There may still be a few areas I want to fill in a little bit later, but we'll work on that. One of the things I want to do, one of the most satisfying parts of any kind of painting, especially if you're using masking, is when you remove the masking and you get those clean lines. So I'm going to do that now. Let's get over here and pick up our Scotch tape, and let's peel that off. And oh yes, baby, that is a proud moment right there. And we get a deeper sense of how well those lines held up. Yes, that looks instantly better. I have a few other places here. I have some tape up here as well. Whenever I have a nice straight line. It's harder, of course, to do this with a curved line, which is unfortunate but real. And I'll go across there. And let's see, I got a line here as well. Let's see. And get this guy pulled up. There we go. And we have another piece right in here. Just that little bit of our angle here. If I can make it happen. There we go. On the edge, and up you go. Okay, so I'm seeing a few things. So there's a little bit of slop in here I'm not a big fan of, and again, all these things are fixable. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to again grab my my magic rub eraser here, and let's go to town on these lines in the middle. And again, we don't want to bump into the paint at all here, because that would be not good at this point, since the paint is still not fully set. So we're going to clean this up a little bit. And we can, again, come in a little bit later if we want to get it a little bit more deeply into these lines. I just want to kind of make them less obvious for right now. There we are. Now again, is this piece finished? Is this what we want to have? And it could be, by the way. I've certainly seen plenty of great artwork that, kind of has this aesthetic. And again, one of the challenges we have with anything we create is identifying when it's done, right? Is it done, or am I overdoing it? And in this scenario, I'm thinking I want to put some red in here and just make kind of a dot. Put a dot right there, and that's where the red is going to go. Now, do I do a bright red or more subdued red? And looking at these two, I have here, this is my cherry jam. I think that's going to do a better job of matching the olive green that we have in here. So I'm thinking, you know what? Let's put a dot right in here, just something to draw the eye and to make it so it's not just one big color blob. Which you know, again, we may want to do that. Now, in this scenario, again, because we've been using kind of a geometric approach, I'm going to use my compass again. And what I want to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just create a circle. Make it a little tiny bit bigger, not much. I'm going to create a circle right in this area here. Again, it's going to be kind of, I'm going to try to make it as round as I can in this area. Okay? But again, what I want to be able to do is just draw the eye to kind of an imperfection almost. If you have seen my videos on translucency in paint, red, not your candidate for something that is going to allow you to be opaque. This is one of the most translucent colors, and if you put about 18 layers on here, it should work out just fine. You know what? That's not going to work for me because I got stuff to do, and I don't want to stress out about making my artwork, and you know, lunch is almost over. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to reach for my go-to, which is, yeah, I'm going to reach for my acrylic white. And the beautiful thing about white paint is it's super, super, super opaque. Yeah, you don't think about it. You think, oh, white is going to be one of those colors that is see-through. Not so much. A lot of titanium dioxide, zinc oxides, things like that make this paint white. So I'm going to dip in. I'm just going to work out of the container today. And I'm going to come in here, and again, let me just kind of find the outline. I'm going to try to obscure my pencil marks. It's not real obvious, that's a plus. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my best to redraw the circle using paint and to get rid of that pencil line at the same time. And I don't care if my circle is precisely, you know, looks like it was drawn by a compass or not. That's not the objective I'm going for. At the end of the day, what I'm really looking for is a place where there's some color that's going to make this piece stand out a little bit differently from, you know, just the ordinary. We're going to try to enhance it. That's what we're doing here. And sweep up like that. There we go. All right, and now let's fill the rest of this in with the white. Smooth it out best we can to get rid of any brush marks as well. Unless we want that texture. And again, brush marks can really serve a purpose in being a good area of texture in certain parts of our artwork. So it's not a bad thing. There we go. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. And by the way, you can already get a sense looking at this how that white is really by itself. We could just stop there. We can say, well, that's done. So let's give that a few minutes to dry. And then we'll come back, we'll drop our red on here, and we'll see if it turns out the way we hope it turns out. Okay, as you can see, everything is dried. I took a time to kind of clean up some of the other areas that I just wasn't particularly happy with. And now it's a matter of getting our red in here. I'm going to shake my paint up, as I like to do. And let's see if we can make some magic happen. And again, you know, already happy that we have the white down because it's going to make it easier to get this red to pop against it. And I'm just going to try to cover up my white as completely as I can. And the white being underneath is actually going to create an interesting effect of making this red just seem a little bit even brighter. Let's come on in. Now, by the way, and we'll talk more about this in future videos, but one of the things, of course, we can do with this using cut paper, which is one of my favorite methodologies of creating anything, is cut paper collages, is that you can create similar blocks of paper and, you know, cut them out whatever shape you want and, you know, take a red thing and toss it on top of it here, etc. And the colors are pretty solid. Again, the nice thing about working with paint is that, well, it gives us an opportunity to work with a different medium. That's not always horrible. But the other thing about it is it does leave these kind of imperfections in the form of brush marks and other things that are part of just the process. You know, everything in the world from an art standpoint doesn't have to be exactly precise. You know, there's kind of like art for engineers where everything is perfect all the time. You know, I think sometimes art can be left to be something that is interesting to look at, mostly because it's not perfect. if that makes sense. You know, it's just, we don't want it to be generic, and we don't want it to be almost, looks like it was manufactured. There we go. And this red, even though it's showing a little bit of the white coming through it, is still subtle enough that it's not totally in your face. It doesn't overwhelm the green around it, which is part of what I want to make sure didn't happen. And but there we go. I think we are rocking and rolling. So now again, where does this end? Could I put other shapes in here and other things? I could. I don't want to. I want this to be what this piece of artwork represents. And again, this is an abstract piece of artwork. It doesn't have to represent anything. It's the kind of thing that if I put this on a wall, am I going to be able to look at this and there's a certain sense of balance and form that just makes me happy? And again, for us as creators, is this the kind of thing that we create that makes us happy? It gives us something to do. It takes us away from our regular life for a few minutes, and it gives us something that really allows us to see our own creative potential, something we can hang on the wall, share with our friends, etc. So I hope this is useful for you, and I hope you're able to fit this into your lunch break. Again, it depends on how long your lunch break is. But the objective of these exercises is just to show you that art can be made fairly quickly, and you can create stuff that you really, really enjoy. Anyway, that's all I have for you this week. If you enjoyed what we did, feel free to subscribe. We'd love to be able to talk to you on a regular basis. Anyway, this is Spider. Thanks so much for coming by, and we'll see you real soon.